Hi third graders, it's Ms. Hadamio, and I would like to go over our DMA solutions for our week 1, day 4. So let's take a look at our first equation. We have two add-ins here. We have 71, and to that 71 I want to add 13 more. So we want a total sum of those two add-ins together, and so we are going to use our break apart strategy first. So we were going to add the tens first, which is 70 and 10, which is 80. Then we can add our ones, of course, and that would be, I got ahead of myself. That would be 3 and 1 from the 1 and the 3 here. And that would give us 4. And together, when we put the ones and the tens together, we get 84. Another strategy is the add-on strategy, where we take our largest add-in, which is 71, add on the tens, which is the 10 from 13, which would be 81. Then we can take the 81 and add on 3 more from the 13. And once we do that, that is going to give us 84. Again, these should match because we are still just using a different strategy, but we should get the same sum. So now we're going to take a look at another strategy, and it's compensation. So I want to make my numbers easy to use quickly. So if I subtract 1 from the 70 and add it here to the 13, that would make this 70 and this 14. So now if I add 70 and 10, which makes 80, and 4 more ones, that would be 84. So again, 3 strategies that you can use to achieve the same sum. If we take a look at the next problem, it says look at the base 10 blocks and write the number shown. So if we look at and understand that these are the ones, and it takes 10 ones to make a 10 rod, and then it takes 10 tens to make 100 flat. So we're going to write this in standard form using our base 10 blocks. So we have 3 ones, so we would put a 3 in the ones place. We have 4 tens, so we have 10, 20, 30, 40. So there's a 4 in the tens place. And we are going to have 100, 200, 300, 400, 400 hundreds place. And that's in standard form. Now, if we were to write this in expanded form, we could say that it's 400 plus 40 plus 3. But it basically just wants you to write it in standard form. But we should also have experience writing it in expanded form as well. Let's take a look at the next problem. It's a pattern. So we are looking for the missing numbers in the pattern. So looking at our pattern, we have a 2, a 4, a 6, and an 8. Well, within here, we have what's called a rule. That means what's happening from one number to the next. That's called a rule. So I'm going to add that here. And when we talk about a rule, we want to know what's happening in the pattern. So if we look from 2 to 4, what do we notice happening here? From 4 to 6, what's happening? From 6 to 8, what's happening? Well, if we look and think about it, we're adding 2 each time to the next number. So if we continue the pattern, the next number, which would be here, if we add 2 more to 8, that would be 10. So we're looking at even numbers. We add 2 more to 10, which would make 12. Another even number. We add 2 more to 12, which would make 14. If we were to continue the pattern, we would go 16, 20, 22. So what's our rule? The rule is we're going to add 2 to the number each time. Okay, so now let's take a look at our problem, and let's think about our strategy of KFA. So if we look at our problem, it says Becca put 91 books on the shelf. So it sounds like she has a total of books. Of those books, 28 were nonfiction, so part of them were nonfiction, 13 were poetry, and the rest were fiction books. How many books were fiction? So now we know some information. We know that there are 91 books on the shelf, so we're underlining this important information. 28 are nonfiction, 13 are poetry, and the rest are fiction. So we want to find, circle that question, how many books are fiction? So we're going to take and write an answer statement in using our question. So the question again is, how many books were fiction? So we're going to write an answer statement based on our question. So there were blank books that are fiction, and we're going to, after that, explain our thinking because. Okay, so now we can take our understanding using the information that we have in our word problem, and now we can start thinking about what we want to do with the information. So we know that we have 91 total books. Some of those books are going to be poetry books and some are going to be nonfiction books. So nonfiction are 28. So here's total. We're taking away part of those books as our nonfiction. I'm going to put an NF here for nonfiction. And some of those books are poetry. And if I recall back my information, 13 were poetry. So I'm going to subtract the 13 poetry books from the total because I know that I'm going to need what's left, the rest of the books. And those are the fiction books. That's what we're looking for. That's what our question's asking. There were blank books that are fiction or blank fiction books. So now I need to take and find how many books there are that are nonfiction and poetry, combine those together to get that part. And 20 and 10 makes 30. And 8 and 3 makes 11. And so now I have 41 books. So if I take those 91 books and subtract the 41 books that are nonfiction and poetry, then I would end up with 50 fiction books. Okay? So now I can go back to my answer statement and say there were 50 fiction books because 91 books minus 28 books minus 13 books, which are poetry books, gives me 91 minus 41 equals 50. So we've answered our word problem, we've shown our work, and so we will continue to work on our DMA and test our strategy skills again next week. Have a great weekend.